minutes. So, welcome to Pacific Kings Live. It's been a busy road in the last few weeks for me. Lots of planning for our event coming up here. So, we got what's a new event, which is a 1 day uh, called the So-Called Crossfire, which is replacing our mini awards event. So, I've been running that, planning that, and getting that set up for next weekend. And special shout out to War Chest Creations that really helped out with prize support for that. So if you haven't got a chance to see their stuff, you can type in War Chest Creations. I know that there's an Etsy shop, and you can contact Tim directly as well if you're interested in something specific. Have some ideas. Anyway, let's talk about a quick show that I wanted to do today. Today, the um, Masters is going to be starting on Sunday for Australia, and Ken out there, who's running the event, does if I wouldn't even know about it if he didn't post this awesome stuff that's out there. So he's the Masters TO out there, and he's shared with us a bit about some of the Masters players that made it this year. Now they've got 10 players, if I remember correctly, and I don't know anything about Masters over there, so I don't know if there's some challenges that they're going through. But over here in the U.S., we have 64 players, so this is interesting to see the smaller Masters group. Obviously, it's a tighter group of players, and there's another set of circumstances involved, I'm sure, which is travel and the time of year, and hopefully they get that worked out and they get the opportunity to bring the community for a larger event, because I know Masters every year is really a focal point of our community coming together and getting in some mind share and meeting some of the players from across the nation, which is something that is a big part of our community. Now, we know of a lot of these players because some of them play online, so like Jeff Trash, and they get a chance to play in some of our events. Like we have one going on for the Quintessential Quail Cup, which I'm doing some review information on, and I'm playing it myself. So Jeff Trash, and I hope I run into some other players that are playing there too. But like I said, I just briefly went over this and looked at the lists, but I thought this was really exciting. I as much as I love Direct Misfire, I haven't got a chance to listen to their show yet. So that's fascinating because they have some more specialty information that I don't have about the players. But I really thought this was an interesting point where I get to do some mind share and participate. And of course, we've all seen some level of the lists, and if you've got a chance to see them, I'm going to be going over some of them today, and I hope you guys like them. And there's going to be some interesting lists, and some of them that are intimidating, and some of them that are maybe a little bit more interesting and flavorful. So I'm going to be looking forward to seeing what kind of stuff people have taken. Now I have looked at some of them, like I said. So let's go ahead and pull up some of these army lists, and we'll just get straight into it. I want to try to make this as short and sweet as possible. And if you're painting, good for you. Keep on painting. Pull out your models and paint away. So this is Jeff Trash's army. Jeff Trash is playing Basileans. Now, I didn't know he played them, but of course, Jeff will play anything online, I'm sure, within reason. But having the models is another thing. So I know Jeff is a longtime gamer, so it's exciting to see something a little bit different. Now, he has taken Basileans with the idea of still having a high unit strength. And note that these events are at 1995, so that really comes up for a really interesting high unit strength Basilean army with a lot of air support. And that's interesting because you don't really see a lot from that Jeff either. He's typically a ground pounder and uses the high efficiency strategy in the game, and which is low cost units, trying to do as much as he can. Now you have 13 units in that. That's probably 2 above the norm. That means he's kept his units point cost as low as he can. Nothing in this army is above 200 or 205, which are the 2 Paladin Knights, which you see in the list here. I really like what he did with this idea, and I'm I'm glad he didn't take Julius because I really would like to see how Basileans play without him, uh, and I think it's a strength if you've learned how to master them without Julius. But I do see that he's taken two Phoenixes, which I believe are fantastic because they're monster size, so their scale has dropped as their footprint on the table. They still hit on threes, and the three attacks is kind of marginal, but it does do a couple of damage, and that pings a dragon, keeps it from flying away. And because it's a 16/18, it's not going to die so quickly itself. And with a regeneration of 4 up, it can actually hold its own. It might get wavered, which is not surprising. I mean, if you're thinking like the Kraken and Trident, it probably will get wavered, but it will probably hang around because the regeneration is keeping it from being removed from the table. So it does have Fire Sparks, which has 18-inch now, and it's 10 attacks. So that's pretty solid. 10 attacks and hitting on 4+. It doesn't have any piercing, but that's okay because it's really just a control piece. And if it flanks you, it's 6 attacks, and that's not bad either. And while it's not attacking you, it's keeping your units alive with heal 5. So that's great for the knights. It can act as a shield. It can fly over the knights. Yeah, it's quite a surprising and powerful unit. I think it's a little underestimated how good the Phoenix is going to be. I'm glad we've got a couple of options for the Phoenix now, and I'm sure Mantic is as well. He's also got the 3 Elohi, and he's upgraded them with the Crushing Strength 2, or 2 Crushing Strength 2. They do have Iron Resolve, so that also helps keep them alive because they're dash 14. Far superior type of striking unit, and even with defense 4, with 14, that's fine, because getting them to a 7 on the nerve test, even if you got them to 6, that's 8 wounds you have to do to them, and that's hard to do just with anything. You have to have a hammer to do that, or combo charge them. So if it charges something that's in a bad position, and it stops it from being useful, takes Thunderous Charge away, attacks your front line while it advances, it may not die unless you commit more than its point cost to kill it. And that's what makes him so good. And with his army, I think he can combo charge a few things in with them and really get some superior strength. With its speed, Iron Resolve, and then, of course, it has an inspiring bubble around it. It's quite surprising. And then, of course, Divine Fervor, which you can see there, is impacting on any humans while engaged with the same unit. They get elite as well. So as you can see, just about everything has it except for the Phoenix and the Ogre. So that, and of course, the other angels. But so that it's interesting to see how he's taken this list, and I hope to see some good things on the battlefield. So he's done 2 things that I'm really shocked about, which are the dictators, and I think that's kind of the thing that is abnormal for him. They do have CS2 and 4 attacks, and this is him getting some control on the battlefield and attacking and doing some minor damage and blocking the way. So they're mighty. That's the big gotcha here. Is they hit on 3+, got defense 5, CS2, and they're mighty. And they can actually hurt other characters because they've got Duelist. At 75 points, 12-14, that is fantastic, actually. And so when you look at the other characters, which you look at some of the other fantastic ones, like 11-13, the Mythican, I go back to Trident because I'm playing them. That's a really powerful unit with Ensnare, even though its armor is lower. But if you compare this guy to the Centurion, for example, the Centurion is right up this alley too, with a 10. I think he's a 10-12. Is he? I think he's a 12, maybe a 12-14. I could be wrong here, but with inspiring, hitting, good attack numbers. It's all the same numbers, pretty much, and except they've got Ensnare and he can shoot. So I mean, you can see that there's some parallel here with the Dictator and some power that's in there that Jeff has pulled out. The Ogre Palace Guard is a great effective scoring unit, but the big thing is he gets to add brutal into his combats. That's one thing that's a gotcha that most people kind of forget. because you're playing with a bunch of Basileans. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, brutal. That one little point is gonna catch somebody out, and I guarantee you that's kind of where he's going with that. And it's also kind of this advancing piece that you either choose to attack it and hit it with a hammer, or you almost kind of want to just ignore it, because if you don't put enough into it, it won't die, being 13, 15 and inspiring. So then you start looking at the rest of his list. He's got 175. He's got 2 hordes below that cost 175, and then he's got a upgraded one with hammer measured force. And so these are just his big walking shields, big scoring. You're going to want to have to grind through them, and he doesn't really care. I mean, if you dedicate more than their point costs to kill them, he's got plenty of things around the way to stop you. He's got a little different strategy than I would take with the army, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I mean, I think it's fantastic and a great idea. I'd love to see what he does with it. I'm sure with his aggressive play style and his calm patience, he will do well with it. And I think that's something that a lot of people can learn when they watch his games. It's too bad we won't be able to see the games ourselves, but it would be good to at least know we can get those matchup pairings. We can see how he does as it goes along. So we'll have to look to Ken James for that as he goes along. So let's go ahead and go to the next one, Matt Curtis. So we talked a little bit about Jeff here, and if you wanted to read some of his his resume here for this year, and I really missed this because we did this in Masters way back in 2018, 2019 timeframe, and I remember that was just a really great way to show the legacy of all the players that attend Masters, to understand why they got there and how they did it, and where they came from, and what their skill set is on. So if they took any particular army, why they did well, that would be great. And I think in Masters, we could use that ourselves. We could use a little bit of that for the community to understand who our Masters players are, and where they've traveled to throughout the season. Like if they go outside of their region, what events that they pick as their primaries. That's fascinating information to me. So let's go on to Matt Curtis, and I think you're going to find Matt is the runner-up here with Twilight Kin. I think he's taken something that's pretty aggressive, and I hope that he does well with it. I took Twilight Kin to Masters myself, and but I think that you're going to find it's a pretty interesting list. I think it suits what we've seen in Masters that performed well this last year, this year for 2022. The Michael Host Shadow Beast combination is quite strong, and Lethael is a great supporting character that will catch you off guard if you're not paying attention. And but the rest of it is a soft glass cannon type of list, and I think it's fun to play with a lot of finesse like this. So let's just quickly go into Matt's list. So we've got so he's got some really cool names that he added to his units. Call me Vlad. He's Vlad, and so is he. So these are the Impalers, and I have I've tried Impalators. I've really tried Impalers, and I just couldn't make them work. And either they'd get wavered or they get taken off too soon, and I couldn't deliver them. I really tried to use them, but good luck to you for. And I think a lot of people are using them. I haven't been able to get them to work like I want, but he put the Warboy of Cobb on him, which is interesting. One little chip shot of damage if he can remember to cast it. I don't know anybody who can remember it. I think I would probably put the Staying Stone on him just to make it one less chance of wavering, maybe 15, 16. But anyway, let's continue. He's got 2 Gladestalkers, which is they're great. Gladestalkers are fantastic. I know that there's a lot of people that are upset at their point cost and probably would think that with Dreamslayer Venom, these guys probably should be 205 or something in that zone. I think that their unlocking is still fine. I played Gladestalkers from late 2nd edition to now, and I've lost plenty of games playing with 3 or more Gladestalkers. It takes some skill to learn how to play them. So I think anybody who complains about them probably should try them if they're not comfortable with them. I'm not disagreeing that they probably should be point adjusted, because there's a lot of units that don't get nearly the quite collection of rules that they get. Anyway, so let's move on. I do like Gladestalkers. I think they should be in the game. I hope they do. I mean, if anything, don't make them non-unlocking. We got a lot of non-unlocking units. So, but anyway, that's a different topic. Let's move on. So the Sea Guard, they're obviously one of the new things that are coming out. I don't say it's really new. I mean, I've tried them before in the past, and I haven't fallen in love with them. But he did put fire oil on them, which that's fine. They are a good unit, and with Phalanx, they're harder to kill with anything that uses Thunderous Charge or being monsters and flying. It's easily something to deal with, a struggle to deal with them if you don't have the right pieces lined up on them. But they, against regeneration units, you'll often, that's not a bad choice to use Fire Roll, but it's only 5 points if you're not, so it's not a huge loss. Again, we see the Hammer Measured Force on a unit of Blade Dancers. I've used 2 regiments of Blade Dancers. I've tried the Horde as a cheap Horde unit on a flank to control it. Just didn't quite work. 21, 23 is not a bad nerve. But without Ensnare from like my Ensnarers, which I just fall in love with, they're not bad. They're okay. I mean, I use 2 regiments in my own Twilightkin list of Neophytes, so they're not bad. He's got Hammer Measured Force on them, which makes them pretty solid in combat with Elite, and then wounding on 4s. So there you can use. For those that have never tried something like this, when you're looking at the math, they're really super fruitful against units that are heavily armored, like Defense 6, because you're basically getting a big dice advantage there. If against Defense 5 targets, if you paid for something that had CS1, you're basically getting a 10-point advantage, or depending on what type of unit you put unit strength on. So it's basically CS1 against Defense 5 targets. And then when you start going the other way, it's just a break even kind of thing. So then if it's a Defense 3 target, you've almost wasted your points. So it's really, you're trying to make sure you use it against something that's got a high armor value, so you can get the most of it. You do have Elite melee, so it can be a good unit against the right targets. Got a unit of Chromebound Butchers. That's kind of like the standard. You don't have a lot of options in this army, and he didn't give him anything. They hit on 4s, and he didn't give him any kind of Strider or anything. So they're not going to be really great in dealing with walls, or if there's a lot of terrain on the table, he's going to be struggling. And but this is only a regiment size, so it's not a big deal. It's more of a blocker for his front line. It's a shield to deliver something, maybe hold an objective, carry a token. At 13, 15, they're pretty good unit strength and Defense 5, so it's a solid unit. Let's go on to the Summoner Crone. I'm too old for this ship. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Boots of Levitation, Host Shadow Beast, Drain Life. Right. So Boots of Levitation gives you that I can move wherever I want. I can move 12 inches and still cast spells effectively. So that's basically what that is. So the Summoner Crone can run and do a Drain Life 6 or Host Shadow Beast 3. So the new Host Shadow Beast is definitely solid. It doesn't work as well. I don't know how good this is going to be with Michael. Probably not the same as it used to be. So I'm not so certain I'm impressed with the idea of using that anymore. But that's not really that big of a deal, I don't think. So we're going to go ahead and go to Lethael. So Lethael is good because she's got Aura Stealthy. So against other shooting armies, she's really putting in a reduction of performance against the opponent. With Drainlight 7, she's not bad either. So she can really actually keep other units alive. And with 2 drain lives in the list, you can with piercing 1 effect on drain life, it's not bad. And so she can also do Fireball 10, so some chaff or anything. I like to play her in the center of the table, so you can get as close as you can with the Eye of Valak ability, which is she may select an enemy within 12 inches regardless of line of sight. This unit loses stealthy and spell ward on a turn. All spells targeting this unit may re-roll all natural unmodified to hit rolls of 1 until the end of the turn. So if you're doing drain life on it, or those kind of things, it's going to, you get some benefits from it. Now, I don't see a lot of reason for that spell in there. You might find a list that has lightning bolts and those kind of things in it that you're going to be like, oh, damn, all these are re-rolling. That's where but I don't see a lot of those mechanics in this list. I would say this is a list that's actually a little bit toned down and more designed for fighting. So I don't know. I mean, she's more for the point cost of Lethael. She's more of a utility piece than an effective synergistic combat piece. But I'd love to see how he does with the list. I think there's a lot of special tricks you can do, like with Banshees and with the lightning bolt mechanics and things like that she can really take advantage of. We don't see a lot of people using. But yeah, we do have the Wicked Miasma. So that's basically the Crone-bound stuff can be impacted on that. So that's so instead 18 instead of 6. So that's great. It's a nice little spell effect. So Michael is pretty awesome because he's got the Sword of Umbra, and we know that he's just a badass versus heroes, monsters, and titans. He basically doubles his attacks, so that's not bad. So he's going to be going after all of the big stuff and hoping he himself doesn't die in the process. He does have Dread and CS2. He's mighty, and he doesn't die super easy, and he doesn't get wavered because he's a dash 16. So Michael is a problem, and at speed 9, mounted cav, mighty, he can get in your way really quick. He's just defense to 5, so trying to figure out how you can get him to 10 damage is really what you're after. So you really want to either trickle damage to him, get him down, but with Iron Resolve, it kind of prevents that. So he's using Elite on you and CS2, just like most of the characters. At 230 points, he's right at that threshold of, do I take him or do I not? So they must have got the points right. You have to dedicate to use him right, and with the combination of the other characters, he can be used pretty well. So I actually like the list. It is seemingly risky at 1995 to use a Crone-bound Archfiend at this point level, because your unit strength can drop significantly if you screw this up. However, the Crone-bound Archfiend is no joke. I mean, he does have 9 attacks compared to 10, like dragons. I used him a few times in the past, and I have a model that I absolutely love, but I haven't been able to put it on the table yet. I've got a couple ideas on how I want to do it myself, but getting the Fireball in there, if you can get the Fireball with Thale, and I think you can make some magic happen. So I'd love to hear about how this game goes. But I think he's going to find out that he's just a little soft, and when he gets hit first, because some things go fast, some things may go faster. He's going to have to keep himself tight because he wants to use them to get the most out of stealthy, and then he's probably going to be striking somewhere. It's a very surgical kind of list, and then he's got some some pressure from the Sea Guard that he can do. It's like, hey, look, if you're going to advance, you're going to take some punishment, that kind of thing. It's a fun way to play, especially with Michael. I think that makes up for a lot of fun in the game. So I'm looking forward to hear how he does, and good luck to you, Matt. So let's go on to the next one. Yeah, Steven, Devastator Devenish, right? So he's going with goblins. So good for you, because I love goblins myself. So I've got my frost goblins, and I played with them a lot in 2021. Pulled them back out a little bit in 2022 here. Yeah, so let's just go ahead and go down the list. And so he's got 2 regiments of rabble and 2 hordes of rabble. There's no items in there that's really to be mentioned. He's got 2 Luggate gangs. They're both troops, so at dash 11 and defense 4, they're really surprising. Like, either deal with them or hit them with a hammer and take them out, because you might not kill them just with a simple chaff charge or even a light unit with 5 attacks. 5 attack character or something like that. So you'll need to attack them pretty hard to make sure you kill them. And because they're a dash, they don't die so easily. At 105, they're just right with the wild charge. They can be tricky if you ignore them. They don't have nimble, so you don't really have to worry about that. But they're really carrying that brutal, right? So they hit on 4s, but they do have 15 attacks. So you're looking at 3-4 wounds against defense. Depending on what they get with the brutal. So you'd be surprised they can actually do some damage. I love the trolls. I almost always use trolls with Chalice of Wrath or Headstrong. But the other thing is I never give them the detonation packs. But I debated a lot between Chalice of Wrath and Sharpness, and I kind of went the Dustin Howard way, and if you're gonna use them, go big, go. So I went with Sharpness on mine ever since. And it's done me some good. And I usually keep him in the back line, so I'm pretty sure that's what he's going to do with him. You could also, with Chalice of Wrath, you put him on the flank and just keep things from, make him dedicate to kill them and set up a counter charge in some way. Mobby's pack, fantastic, hitting on 3s, 12 attacks, love that. He's got the regiment, so running downhill, CS1, TC1, vicious, nimble, hitting on 3s. Wild charge, speed 6. These ones will surprise you. They will do some damage. I've run downhill and broken units with them, with just the troop, right? I mean, these little guys will kick some ass if you're not paying attention. Let's go on to the mop-up launchers. I've had them. I've enjoyed them. But they're, because they don't have any penetration value at all, they almost do nothing more than other units do. They do hit on 4s, which is great. So my guess is that you're shooting the mop-up targets, the mop-up cage targets, Luggate gangs, for example, and helping them deliver damage. Same thing with the rabble in the front. I think that's probably a better use of them. He's got a couple of mincers. He's got the smaller ones. They're the single mincers. And then he's got the wingates. He's got just one wingate. Okay, the other one's a king. It's Tony Stark. I mean, Grony Snark. Yeah, he's great with Host Shadow Beast. But I don't think he's taken that combination in this. He's been a nice guy. So, but yeah, we get the wingate with bombs away. That's the typical way to go with those. So it's a good obstructor, and then it's right. So it's an affordable Phoenix with no healing. So then we got the 2 troll bruisers. Fantastic unit. I think it's great for this army. You need a little bit of the at 1995. They come right in handy and they score. And I think they can do some tricky things in between the goblin horde units, the chaff stuff. So then you got Cuzlo and Madfall, another really good unit. I almost auto take them, Cuzlo, and it has something to do with being able to. You can pull people forward and put them in a position that they don't want to be in. Hex also is a good thing on surging and other types of units. Maybe Lightning Bolt could be effective. Any of the spellcaster type stuff, Hex is fine. But really, like the surge is what you're trying to hit that, because if they can't move, if they're hit and intend to cast, so that kind of hinders them. Even if they do decide to take damage, it's the movement, right? Because you could be out of range. And a lot of a lot of players have a tendency to leave them behind. Yeah. So let's go on here. He's got a king on a chariot, which I think is fun. I built a couple of kings on chariots and used them. They're fantastic chaff pieces at 130 points. And you can actually do some solid damage with 7 attacks hitting on 4s. And CS1 isn't bad in TC. So it's like, yeah, you can actually do something with them. And I've been using them since 2nd edition, and probably won me a couple of games at against some top players with them. I think it's a really good unit. It's underused. Surprised you don't see more chariots from these guys on the table with 13, 15. So I think it's a pretty good list with 25 unit strength and 18 units. That's a lot of drops. So he's going to be able to put his strongest units where he wants, and his shooting units in useful places. So 25 unit strength is pretty good. So let's move on. So good luck to Steven, and we hope he does well. So let's move on to Damien. So Damien has got Northern Alliance. This is one of the armies that I don't have. I've been wanting to play with Ice Hunters for a while because I really think there's something missed with this ice feature that they have. So they've got ice-tipped arrows, which slows your opponent down. So that gives you an advantage against... So it allows you to play with speed 14 units versus speed 16. So you can slow some units down, and since there's a lot of wild charge in Northern Alliance, you can probably start out charging your opponent now. If you can slow down some units and balance that with wild charge. And I feel like there's not enough people using that mechanic in the game. I think the Icekin Hunters are fantastic support pieces as well. So if you took them as allies, I'm surprised. I'm surprised we don't see that more often. But anyway, they're fantastic, and I love the model range. This is one of the ones that I think looks really great on the table. So anyway, he's got 3 Huskarl units. 2 of them are regiments, one's a troop. It's a solid unit. I still have nightmares from Travis Tim crushing me with Huskarls. So yeah. So yeah, they're great. They're fantastic. 20 attacks on 3s, CS2, Fury, and Wild Charge. So they don't waver. 15, 17, just as powerful knights. The only weakness is that they're kind of slow and a little bit pricey on points. A couple items makes them super effective. He's got a troop, which is surprising. 15 attacks on a troop is solid. And 13, 15 on the flank, hitting on 3s with skirmisher boots. You got nimble. Yeah, that's a solid scary unit. So he's got elite on the other one. It's okay to have in the back line. So he's got just the right combination there. So they're a little bit slow, so you might get hit first. So you have to figure out how you're going to do that. So let's see what else he has in the list. So we've got 2 snow trolls. One's a regiment, one's a horde. One's got Chalice of Wrath, and the one has the smaller one has the tier, which basically removes brutal, that kind of thing, right? I'm not so sure I would go with the regiment of trolls, but with 12, 15, they're not bad, and they do hit pretty okay. It's just that I wish they had Wild Charge Type 3. Let's just put it that way. I would play with them probably two regiments and use them like Ogre Berserker units and blast people. Otherwise, they're just kind of a shield. And at 130 points, I think I'd love to see how he does with them. Can't say that it's bad, but doesn't fit my style. I love the Snow Foxes. They're just fantastic. Pathfinder, speed 8, nimble, stealthy, vicious. That they're great. It has 10 attacks. You'd be surprised how much problem these guys can make for your opponent. 9/11, okay, no big deal. I mean, Snow Foxes are great. At 80 points, they're totally worth it. Now we get to see his utility pieces here. The 2 Ice Queen. I got the Ice Queen and the Thane. The Thane's great. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with the Thane, But this time, I think he went with the standard on him, which is great. So he gets rally 1. That's how you do it, I think. That's how you do it. And then Hrim is almost like an auto take. 260 points, so good. Brutal, breath, very inspiring. Strider can run through the woods, crushing 4. And he's got Slayer die 6 with a die 6 plus 10 attacks, and he's a dash 20. Fantastic model, fantastic unit, does it all. Put that in the center of your deployment, and you just force him to deal with you. I've seen a couple of these, these strategies. Travis Tim plays. He doesn't play with the Ice Hunters, but he does pretty well with this style. I won't go into that here, but there's no reason why he can't do really well with this. I think he's got the right pieces. He might be a little bit outclassed, but again, at 1995, I think he can do it because with Ice with Rim, it's pretty strong. I mean, it's pretty strong. You have the Thane with Rally in there. Whew. You're going to be having to punch through a lot of stuff, and the Ice Hunters are going to be putting some pressure on you and taking off the chaff while he preps up and takes the objectives and holds them. 21 unit strength, pretty solid. 12 drops. 13, 14 is probably common. So I'm really liking Damien's list, and I hope he does well. All right, let's go on to Andrew Goodman. I'm going to go ahead and change this page view. All right. So we go. Well, this is the Night Stalker list. So all right. Yeah, so I really love this list, and I looked at this one and I was like, "Hey, this has got some things I'm familiar with." So back in 2020, 2019, I was playing with a list that almost was just like this, and it was really fun. I enjoyed it, and the only thing I had was like a terror in there. It's like I could put a terror in there as well. Maybe it was just it was a fun, really super fun list to play, and did well with that season. So I don't see any reason why he can't do well with this. So you've got 4 hordes and 2 scarecrow regiments, and those are creating bad fights, right? That's really what you do, is you create bad fights with them, and you've got one that you can use as a token holder or set up 75 points and just throw it at something and force him to do something to it. At dash 15, dash 15, what they were just one unit one nerve too high for a lot of things to kill them. A lot of things would attack him and do like 7 wounds, and then they'd roll like a 7 and not break them. So getting them down to 14, I think now they're gonna fall apart a little bit more. At 15, they're super good. And I think people are still using them just as junk. So everybody, I'm sure, is fine with it. I haven't really been in Night Stalkers for a little bit, but I do have a Night Stalker army that I've been playing, which I'm sure Jeff Trash is very familiar with this kind of style of play. And so I had a double Void Lurker list that I ran against Alex Koos. And I really had a good time playing that one. And I love what we do with he's got a couple of apparitions, so he's going to heal in Mind Fog. Mind Fog can actually cause some serious damage. If you're not paying attention, something could get wavered, and it's frustrating, right? And I think it's a great gotcha. It's one of those things that it's like, crap, now what do I do that this got wavered? He doesn't really have anything else to really ping you, so this is really what he's going to be doing with him. But he does have Dread, and they fly, so 14 inches and 13, 15 is actually pretty solid. Hitting on 3s and CS1, not bad. It's not a bad little unit. It's almost like a light Phoenix at this point without any damage. You can heal up your line and keep it from dying. Probably keep the Void Lurkers alive longer. Void Lurkers are really, really a scary unit to have and use. At 1719, they waver easy. So at defense 4, if anything puts a little bit of damage on it, the rest of the game, you're going to have to hide it. So you get 3 or 4 wounds on one of those things, and you're just kind of like, how do I keep it? And I think that's what he's doing is you use the planers to keep it alive, and then you combo charge together. And that's not a bad plan. It's another way around not using the, what are those, soul flares? And a Shadow Hulk you can put right up in the center of your battle line and grind through it. And the Butcher kind of flanks in there, gets 10 attacks on the flank, hitting on 3 CS2. You can do a lot of damage here with this list. So he set up kind of like this fly and flank and heal his line battle. I mean, it seems like a good strategy. I used a Terror in my list. I think I was going with the idea of wanting units to bounce and not, the Terror is a lot like a Kraken. So I was hoping units would bounce more. I think I had good results with it, but I ultimately walked away from the list because the Void Lurker was such a scary unit to put a lot of trust in. And at almost 300 points, if you don't break the unit when you go into them, it's only 10 attacks. You have to get a flank, and you're looking for those flanks. And even with the flank of 20 attacks hitting on 3s, that from an Aero Elemental, for example, that's still in a lot of cases not enough. So you have to combo charge, and you can be put in situations where it's almost baiting you to charge, and you have to decide, okay, am I going to charge this turn or wait? And if I wait and I don't break my opponent, I could lose the game. So that's kind of why I walked away from the Void Lurker. But good luck. I hope he does well, because I love high unit strength Night Stalker lists. So 23, 13 drops is pretty solid at 1995. You can probably easily have a 17 or a 19 and still be quite stable in a 1995 matchup. So let's look at Ken's list. So Ken's got Forces Abyss. Took Forces Abyss to Masters back in 2020. Let's go down the list and see what we got here. I'm going to go ahead and make it to 2-page view. Boom. Lower Abyssals, looking pretty good. I like Lower Abyssals. Hitting on Force is fine. 2022, they've got Fury and Regeneration 5 up, so they can take a punch. I wish they had Ensnare. It's like, can't have it all, Mike. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I mean they're just right for their point cost. They do what they do. They're okay. I would love to have a little bit something else, but they always fight. That's the good part. Well, you can shoot them and cause them to waver, but it is what it is. 2022, probably not going to see a lot of things shooting at, so if you take 4 or 5 wounds, you might get 1 or 2 of those wounds back with Regeneration 5 up. Let's move on to the Flame Bearers. Flame Bearers are basically Heart Piercers, and we already know how good those are. With Regeneration 5 up, they're not quite as good as the Heart Piercers, right? So they are a little bit cheaper, if I remember correctly, just for that reason. They don't fight well. So, and with the Regeneration 5 up, they're probably going to die when they get charged. Not necessarily die, but they probably going to stay wavered and not really come back into the game much. Where the Heart Piercers, because they're 4 up, they have a tendency to come back into the game if you don't finish them. So Flame Bearers, not quite as fruitful, but it's very minor. Like, it's a very minor gig in comparison, but significant in the play, right? So when you look at it from the standpoint of regeneration, you take 5 wounds, you get wavered, right? Let's say this happens because you're on 8s and somebody rolls a 9 and wavers you, and you regenerate on 5 ups. That might be 1, that or none, right? And so now you still have you've gone from 8s where if you took 5 wounds or something, you could probably get 2 or 3 of those back, and you're back up to 11s and 12s in this zone back in the nerve tests. And I just feel like they can get back in the game if they're healing that damage back up. 5s just kind of keep them from being solid. So you have to give some help from the other things in your army to get those guys back up. So you need a little bit more resources to keep them alive. The gargoyles are great, fantastic model, fantastic unit. It's a one-shot wonder. I really actually, Chris Bellows used these, and I think he used the upgraded ones, and I think I want to try the upgraded ones myself, because I think there's something there with the CS1 and the 10 attacks. I think that's pretty scary and intimidating. You keep him back, and you hit something. You got to watch out, because they don't want to attack into cover, right? They don't want to. They don't want to charge into cover because they only hit them 5s, but still a good solid unit for blocking and putting in, dealing with objectives and table sections. Anyway, let's move on to the Molochs. Molochs are fantastic. He's got Despoiler Champion, so they are upgraded. That gives him the Vicious and Brutal. So you've got the CS2, typical Fury, so they're not going to be wavered in combat. 1618 is pretty solid. Defense 4, pretty good. It's just a good unit. It's just a good unit. Wouldn't they be fantastic if they had like Fireball 8? That would be awesome. I would just love these guys, and I would play with 3. Even if it was points flexible, I would adjust points for that. Or maybe take off the Despoiler Champion and you can buy the Fireball 8 or something like that. I would love that. Maybe even Fireball 12. Okay, I'm having fun. Tortured Souls, a great unit. 3 regiments. So Dash 14 is pretty good. They don't have Nimble. That's their weakness. So you kind of got to plan their attack and prep them from the beginning, and that's pretty much it. I've played it. I took these guys to the Tortured Soul regiments, to Samurai Showdown, I think, and I did pretty well with it. I think it's that Dash 14 that makes them good. Like they don't shake off stuff. So you're using that instead of the gargoyles, but you're paying quite a premium for it. But they do punch a lot harder with CS1 and TC1. Abyssal Fiend, straight up a great unit for its point cost. Has the Fireball, Brutal, CS1 Fury. They do great things. The Abyssal Fiend just does good things. At 15-17, 7 attacks. I would love it if it was not a Titan, put it on a 50 base. But it's fine. It does have Inspiring, and it's got a bigger inspiring footprint because of it. It also you've got Brutal, so it just really comes in handy, and it can keep on fighting, so it doesn't get wavered. So that catches out people a little bit. But yeah, so let's move on to the Ifrit. So he's got the Diadem Dragon kind of on the Ifrit. You gotta love that. Fireball 21, go for it, go! So he's gonna be trying to combine some of his fire attacks in there. So now we're starting to see some synergy here in the list. So we've got the Flame Bearers, we got the Abyssal Fiend, we've got the Ifrit. I wouldn't say it's very expensive, but it's a little bit expensive. And then you've got the Abyssal Warlocks, which also have some shooting capabilities with 2x8, 2x firing 5 each, and then he's supporting it with Drain Life, which is also not a bad thing when you're in your back lines. He's in your lines. So, and then healing back up the Flame Bearers. This is where I was talking. You're going to need to keep those Flame Bearers alive. If you're able to shoot every turn with the Flame Bearers, you've got a huge advantage shooting. You've got a huge advantage into winning the game. It's just the piercing one is that solid at 18 inches, and you can move 5 and shoot 18. It's pretty good. So then you got Zazu. I've got mixed feelings about Zazu. I don't know. The betrayal thing just seems to compromise how I want to play the game. I don't like the idea of hurting myself. But the Bane Chant is a pretty good choice. And so you basically got 3 Warlocks and one has lightning bolt instead of the piercing. So all of the warlocks have inspiring. Yeah, he's just a little bit better stat wise. I don't know. I guess there's people that swear by him, and at his point cost, getting the lightning bolt isn't bad, and he inspires, and he's a unit. He's got the unit strength, so nothing wrong with that. And probably don't necessarily have a better way to spend the 115 points. So if you can use him properly, go for it. Go for it, and he gets a little bit further range. So I'd like to see how he does with it. He's got the Efreet, which I'd love. As soon as you start shooting things in cover, that's where things kind of fall apart with that. I've taken 3 Efreets before, having 45 fireball just with the Efreets alone. So it's interesting. It's an interesting effort. It's an interesting effort to use Efreets. Gives me some fond memories. But I would love to see what he does with this list. And I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him in the top 5 if he can get there. I mean, I think this is definitely. I mean, if you're, I don't know. I don't remember what the game schedule is for Masters with only 10 players. I don't know if they're just doing three games on a one day. There's only 10 of them, or if they're doing more games. But if it was a 5 game or even a 6 game at Masters, I think you can go 4 wins. So I think he's got 2 wins in him for a one day. And I would love to see if he can squeeze through. I think he's going to have a lot of trouble with Michael and the Twilightkin list being outshot. So he's going to have to figure out how to get in there and handle the cover. It really depends on the scenario. You don't really want to play Invade. At least I haven't really enjoyed Invade with this army because you need as much time as you can to be effective with the shooting capabilities. And being as soft as you are and being at 1995, you're really relying on getting ahead a turn if you can, and then striking things that are coming around. So you can use the heart piercers. I'm sorry, the flame bearers toward the center. You can focus your line on the center of the battlefield, and anything comes in the center, you've got Molochs on either side, and you've got Tortured Souls to act as some chaff and shields, and you have the lower abyssals on one flank. I would never probably put the lower abyssals in the center of the table. Always be on a flank to cover the advance, and then you've got the Abyssal Fiend to put them where you want them. So I mean, I think this is a pretty solid. It's a pretty solid list, and it neutralizes targets. So good luck to you. I'm excited to see how this one does. Good job. Good luck to you, Ken. All right, let's go to Adam's story. So Adam has got ogres, and I think ogres are in a strong place even right now, even after they've had a little bit of a impact on their regiment size. They were just stupid good with having so many access to regiments. I remember talking to Pat about this. It's like, this is going to be crazy if you unlock these things. And glad to see they just kind of adjusted and found a happy middle ground with being access to 3. I actually have an army with the ogres, and it's really, I actually just made the army. So Mike Zettelmeyer, whenever he comes down, he can play his ogres. So he can just use my models. And I think it's a fine list, and I don't think it's super overpowered. I think there are plenty of weaknesses in the 9 ogre build, and they didn't do super overly good, but they are good. But I don't think they were so good that they needed to be swung on as hard as probably a lot of people called them to be. But I think it created a new fun list to play for a while. And but I still think there's some solid list on there. The alternative is going with Siege Breakers, which you see here. So we did get a little price point raise on the Siege Breakers, I think, but they're still fantastic with the big shield and brutal CS2 hitting on 3s. And still speed 6. I mean, it's just super good. It is. So he's got a Berserker Bully. He's got a Sergeant. He's got the Big Deal. Super good. The Ogre Warlock. What you don't see in 1995 is Namagrok. and so that's not the end of the world. I think they raise the points to him, and it's is it necessary? I don't know. You got a couple of warlocks anyway, so you got the sergeant with the heavy crossbow, and this guy's on the chariot. I really like the sergeant. I think the sergeant's good. I think Jeff Swan kind of walked away from the ogre sergeant with the chariot, but I think it really proved to do well for him back in Lone Wolf a while back, and it's been a good strong piece. And then of course he's got a unit of shooters, which was shooters at the top there, which are fantastic. I mean, they're great. they're just straight up good, hitting on 5, but they're just piecing 2, and you can advance up the table with them if you don't shoot, and you can actually fight really good. Like brutal CS1 hitting on 4s with 18 techs is really good. People underestimate this, but you can do so much damage. I feel like I might be inclined to just use 2 hordes of shooters and 2 siege breakers. But anyway, this is a fine. The list is good. So I hope Adam does well. And you have to play it just right. You can't really make any mistakes, though. That's the thing with ogres. You can't let somebody get into your flank. He doesn't have any croc dogs. You really got to be on your game and can't let anything happen wrong. So that's what this bully is for. I really think this bully is keeping guys off his flank. So he has to keep them back a little bit. He probably uses them to protect the shooters, maybe out on the flank, and just keeps things from coming at him on the first 2 turns until he can actually fight with them on turn 3 or 5. That's kind of how I'd probably go about it. And then the siege breakers just march up the middle, supported by the mammoth, and the rest. So it looks like a solid list. Excited to see what Adam does with it. And let's move on to list number 8, Bensum. So, if I'm not mistaken, Ben is on the Direct Misfire, right? He's one of the Direct Misfire guys. So we've listened to those guys a lot. They have a lot of good comments to say, and I'm intending to go and get a chance to listen to their show. So that's on my to-do list. I decided to make this instead to listen to that, and I thought this would be fun, as I'd love to get a chance to talk about this and then go listen to it, see how far off I am with some of this stuff. But yeah, so like I said, I love goblins, and my own frost goblins. It gives me some fond memories on the tabletop. I've loved the bang sticks. I have a lot of fun with them, but I did a game with them recently, and I haven't used the bang sticks a lot. And just my tip to Ben: don't charge war machines with bang sticks. That was a good video. That was a good fun. I had a lot of good fun playing. Kyle Timberlake is one of our Masters players on the West region. He plays dwarves typically, and so I'm excited to see what it does with dwarves after the new 2020 rules update. But yeah, so let's take a look at his list. We got some rabble. We've got the Luggett gang, which I have also. Luggett lads, I've played that too. Fantastic. I've played the Mogwans. I like that regiment. It's a fun cav unit, and if it runs down a hill and gets all that stuff, they're crazy. They're so good. The Mincer mob. I like the Mincer mobs. I've ran 3 for a while. I loved it. And I ran into problems with Mincer mobs when there's a lot of terrain on the board. So with just one, it's fine. But if you run into tables where the table board designer is a little bit generous on large size terrain, maybe 18-inch pieces and stuff, the Mincer mobs caused me some real troubles. Yeah, the war trombones are great. They do some heavy lifting. He's just got 1. Obviously, I've used 3 or other. You can do a lot of fun things with war trombones. The Goblin Slasher. I mean, the blaster is what it actually is. It's a fantastic piece. I haven't got it to use it as well as some of the other guys are. It just hasn't. I haven't got the dice rolls to go in my favor. Sometimes I've just completely missed, right? So they only hit on 5s. But if you do get that's crazy, right? They're crazy if you get all those hits in there. So the Goblin Slasher now has the aura. So you can buy up the aura. You could do that before, but it has the war trumpet on it now. So you can use that war trombone on top of the slasher, which is funny. And it hits on 4+, which is fantastic. So and he's got the aura rampage for beasts. So that's cool. That's really super cool. So that really was only going to affect the Magwas, but if you look at the Bangits, they also are beasts. So now it just needs to do is should have mop-up launchers, and it would just be hilarious, right? You get Gorp in there, and you get all this strange mechanics, the elite, and the it's hilarious. When it all goes off, and then you're doing damage to yourself, and so usually after it's a one-shot wonder, so easily somebody can pick off one of these units because they've done so much damage to themselves. They're either in waiver range or so easy lightning bolts can take them down. But it's just hilarious. Oh, they do have a single mob pop. I'm not kidding. Ben's gonna have a fantastic time playing this. So he's got the giant. So he's going for the Slayer and the Brutal. The giants are great because you can move the giant out front, and the opponent has to decide what they're going to do with it. Right. And while you're doing the other things, you can move up things, move the war trombones behind it, the goblin slasher. And even if he takes the giant down, you got all this other stuff that's going to finish off whatever took down the giant. And if he didn't take down the giant hits you back. And it's just a great fulcrum or centerpiece of your army. And it's bait, right? Ultimately, it's just bait because it takes a lot to take that 18 down, and it's fury. So it's going to fight you back. So the huge commitment to take the giant down. So he's got Groaning Stark. Fantastic. If you haven't used him, something's wrong. you need to try Groaning Stark. Flag it. Okay. I like putting Inspiring on the Goblin Blaster. Oh, you know what? That's not the Goblin Blaster. I'm not thinking about the Goblin Blaster. I'm thinking about the Bangit. Sorry about the Goblin Blaster. I haven't used the Goblin Blaster. I've only used the Bangit. So I usually put Inspiring on the Bangit instead of the Goblin Blaster. So, oh yeah, the Goblin Blaster is fun because Kyle uses this kind of thing. That's fun. That's fun to use. The Goblin Blaster is okay. At 65 points, it's pretty useful too. So the Flaggit. We're back there. So loot of Insatiable Darkness. That's fine. So you can give strength to something. I don't really know what he's going to give it to. Probably the Luggett gangs, my guess. So that there's CS2 hitting on Force and Wild Charge and Brutal. So that probably makes it okay. And then inspires the battle line. He doesn't have a lot of rabble, so it's not bad. But if you can keep up with the Bangits, they can get CS, TC2 and CS1, and they can actually hit something pretty hard in the flank. 28 attacks, hitting on Force, not that bad. But if you got the elite going, and then you got all the 6 mechanic on the sticks, it's pretty awesome. But then you also have the Aura Rampage too, right, for Beast. So that's pretty good. You get additional die 3 on top of that. So I mean, they can break some stuff. Those guys can break some stuff. So you got the Wizard with the crown. He's got Barkskin. Yeah, so Barkskin. So Barkskin's fun. So the lowest unit strength stuff that he's got, or armor stuff, is defense 4. So basically, for those that don't understand how Barkskin work, it's the armor value of the unit is what the cast is. So if you had defense 3, you'd be successful on 3s. And that would give you an additional token of a blade of armor. So that's fantastic. It would be fine, right? I feel like it would be fine if he had that. And he can go just about anywhere in the list at this point because just about everything is defense 4. So if you have a shooting army, you may be putting it on the Luggett lads on the front line, or you can put it on the Mogwans if they're in a bad position, or if it happens to be able to reach because he's got the crown of the Wizard King, you can put it on the Bang Sticks, which might be a little far from where he's fighting at. But if he ever gets to the battle, this could be how he's keeping them alive after they've exploded themselves. So that's not a bad idea. I think if I was going to go that route, I probably would have just mounted him. Be interesting to see how this goes. It's got Crony Snark and with the flight suit and inspiring, and this is just a fun list. And so good luck to you, Ben. I want to see you in the top 5 with this. I think there's a lot of goblins going to be running with a flag behind you, bro. So you go. All right, let's go on to Luke Schaefer's another Abyss list. All right, so moving right along here. I'm about an hour in so far, so hopefully I can get this done quickly. And then we got one more after this, which is Stephen Tuck. So and then I'll just maybe show a few photos from some of the stuff that they've already posted, as they've probably started their Saturday. It's Friday for me, but they started their Saturday, I think. And I think their Masters event is on Sunday, if I understand correctly how they're playing it. So Luke Schaefer, Depraved Souls, he's called his list. So he's got 2 gargoyles. That's standard stuff right there. Gargoyles are pretty good. He's got 2 different Watchers of the Gate and Guardians of the Harem. He's got 6 Tortured Souls. Yes, 6 Tortured Souls Luke Schaefer has, and a Seductress, and Gnome Glass Shield, which I like that. The Seductress is fantastic. And for those that aren't familiar with using a Seductress, maybe you're familiar with the Mythican. They're almost identical in stats, except for the Seductress flies. Otherwise, it's got Ensnare and Duelist, and it's got Fury and Inspiring. It's got Stealthy and CS1, which is kind of, it's very similar in its performance. 11-13, defense 4, hits on 3s, 5 attacks, and has, but it's a little bit more expensive because of the flying. But it's a very, very good tool. In cover, if you attack her, she probably won't die. Even from maybe even a hammer with Ensnare, you're hitting on 4s instead of 3s, and so that cuts your attacks down. You're going to penetrate with a lot, but let's say you do 5 or 6 wounds to 13. That still could be 6s and 7s inspired twice. That's a 50% chance to kill her. That's not good. That's not good. So you have to hit her hard. If you're going to hit her hard. And she's got the Gnome Glass Shield, so she's got defense 6, so she probably won't die. So look at Abyssal Warlock. That's another standard for core army list building. I think Jeff Trace has really patented that. I think he did that years ago, way back, with his Abyssal army that he took to Masters like 2 or 3 or 4 years back. And he did really well with that. And I think he ran ran some of the Molochs, and then he allied in the Abyssal, what are those things called? The lava guys with defense 6. I don't remember what they're called. My brain's tired from working all day. But yeah, so he obviously he won that event with that. So the Warlocks are good. They've proven to be very good. The Despoiler Champer, I've used the Despoiler Champion a little bit. I think that they're untapped resource with their defense 5-14 and hitting on 3s with CS Brutal, Vicious. I mean, they actually hit pretty hard. I feel like their speed is what keeps them from being used more. If they were speed 7, they would be on the table because just everything outspeeds it, and it needs to be just that one piece that is able to go faster. So, but because it's a Despoiler, it's speed 6, and that makes sense. Bale is one of my favorite units in the game. From the Pit, I Curse Thee is pretty much useless in the game, because if you're not using anything else and you're doing that, It doesn't do any damage. The points balance is right, so it's basically a free ability that doesn't do anything. So they could probably just take it out, and so it's like, well, they just left it in there because. But I really love the idea of it because it almost feels like a jumping ground smash, like it flies up in the air and hits the ground and stuns everything nearby. It just is missing damage. Like, so if it does that, it should shake everyone around and explode the ground like a like a thunder stomp or something like that. And I would have really loved to see that that impact. Just one damage to everything, maybe has aura death or some effect like that. But anyway, hopefully, they attack that in the future. But at 265, it's a little pricey, but the monster size really makes it fruitful. Being able to flank, it's basically a Beast of Nature with Lightning Bolt 7 and Brutal, and it can regenerate and it has Stealthy. So it's not bad. It's 14-16 instead of 15-17, which is relevant. It can get wavered from shooting, so I have a tendency to try to protect Bale, but I like him. And I use a female model for her, but for Bale. But yeah. So again, this is an interesting list because it's got a lot of flying firepower, fighting power. So I'm sure there's a lot of hate on these Tortured Souls. There's got to be a lot of people who are like, that sucks. It's like, he's just, duplicating or, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's got to take some skill to play this way. They're defense 4, so you just have to take them down. They are dash. They're going to keep fighting. And I bet you it's solid. I bet you it's absolutely solid. At 18 attacks, hitting on 4s seems fine to me. Just got to fight in the open. So if you want to neutralize these guys, just make him fight in cover. It isn't that hard. I see a lot of complaining, but just use your skills. Just use your skills, and we'll take him down. Now, from what I've heard, Luke hasn't lost yet, or if he has, I'd love to hear what beat him. But this is going to be, he's going to be probably in the top tables. So he's probably going to win his first round. I don't know who he's paired up against. He's probably going to win his first round, and he might be the TQ, the top qualifier. So Luke is probably my underdog to win this event. And because it's a Forces of the Abyss, I'm rooting for him. And so let's see how it goes. Good luck to you. I'm not so sure that everybody's in love with six Tortured Souls. Seems a little bit redundant, but I actually feel that that's the beauty of the game as well, is that it's just good enough a game that you can choose to play what you want, and it's still not over crazy, but yet it bears some fruit. So he's going to be hitting you with some flying stuff. We know that the Air War is pretty popular right now. So speed 10, you got speed 8s, you got a lot of flying air guard. Doesn't have anything really on the ground other than the spoiler champion and the Abyssal Warlock and stuff. They're just, maybe scoring. Everything else flies. He's got some weaknesses though. He's got 12 drops. He's not going to be out dropping the goblin units, and his unit strength is okay. So we'll see how it goes, and let's see if he can survive that first round. So, all right, let's go to the last one. Stephen Tuck is Order of the Green Lady. So let's just take a quick look at this. I'm going to go ahead and put this in 2-page view. First thing I'm going to look at here is the unit strength. He's got 18 unit strength, 11 drops. This is what I think is typical for the standard balanced play, taking Order of the Green Lady, downsizing your army to be the same alpha striking strategy with the Forsaken, and just bringing it to 1995. So this kind of seems like the list from pre 2022 Clash of Kings release, where we got all the formation updates and stuff. So this is kind of the list I was already playing with. I think this is a pretty standard play with it. I ran the 2 Heart Piercers. I ran the 2 Forsaken. We got the Devoted. We got the Exemplar on the Unicorn. I've got a couple of unicorns. I've gone between 1 and 2. I think one of my games is on Dash 28 with something very similar to this. I think I ran in snares instead of something, but it was a 2023 list, so I think that's how it was different. I ran a horde of ensnares, but yeah. So this is a solid list. So there's not, absolutely no reason why he can't do well. So good luck to him on this, and Steve, I hope you do well. And what I think is going to happen here is he's going to have to break his way through and control a flank and own the center, and that might be the typical strategy. He doesn't have as many holding units as you probably would have at a 2300, so that's what's going to be the challenge. Is he's going to have to use the unicorns well. He's got the lightning bolt unicorns instead of the healing ones. So if he can combo charge with the unicorns and inspire his line, I think that would be fruitful. They're not bad at 12-14, and if you can get one behind his lines and charge with 9 attacks and charge something in the rear, you'd be surprised on how much damage you can do with that. So the Exemplar Redeemer is fantastic. I've used both the foot one and the winged unicorn one. Gosh, it's such a fantastic piece with the regeneration, the headstrong, and the inspiring, and then he's 13-15 with 7 attacks, and he scores. It's so good. The only thing that I would add, and I'd recommend Steve take, was to prevent wavering, but he's got the headstrong, which is fine, but I feel like if it happens to actually get wavered, it sucks. So maybe go with it as it is, but that was how I was doing. I was just adding one more prevention to make sure that it fights every turn. So Fury, give him Fury, and I was really making sure that he's just staying in the game. And it's just a great piece. I just love the Redeemer. So Order of the Green Lady is a fun army to play. And it did kind of drop after this recent one. I think we don't see as much as the water elementals, as I think they just haven't. They're good, but I think they kind of been eclipsed with some of the recent Air War stuff since the that the Green Lady army is solid. I think not seeing it in some of the events is surprising to me, because I really think the army is really good. And if I didn't have enough armies to play already, I'd probably be playing them as one of my core armies for sure. I've kind of stepped away from it in 2022 to work on some of my other projects like Sylvankin and whatnot. But I think Green Lady is in a really good place with all of the other armies. So now I just get a chance to go through some of these photos. Good luck to you, Steve, and we hope you do well versus these top players, and you're in a good room with a bunch of good dudes. So hey, here's a couple shots of some of the guys playing right now. So we know that these guys are playing their heart out, and this is some of the early game stuff for. Trying to remember what that Forces of War or something like that. They have an event also there. Oops, they have an event that's also there, and they're doing that right now. So I think that's pretty cool. You get to see some of these photos of their tables, how their terrain looks, and their units. This is obviously a Ratkin army here, so not something that's in the Masters, but I love. Whoops, that spun by too quick. So yeah, just a couple of shots here of the room for the tournament event that they're doing with the event. So it's got some good shots. I love watching all the guys play. You can see how the room is, and let's see here some other. Love the table. Love the brick. That's a cool idea. Love that. All right. So, well, good luck to you guys, and hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I'm going to be going back into the QQC and do some of the games that have been reported to me. So I'm planning on putting those up too. I just haven't got a chance to them with the event I've been working on. And again, good shout out there to War Chest Creations for some of the support and the fantastic new items that they made for our event. And hopefully you guys go check out their products and get an opportunity to see what they're doing for the community. So shout out to Tim over there. And yeah, so we got plenty of other support that happened for the event too. So just a couple of shout outs there. So we needed a little bit of terrain. So so the guys over at Lake SWAT jumped in. Chris over there helped me out and helped me out with some terrain, which is great, and helped me up with some maps. Good for him. I appreciate his support. And so got to definitely do a shout out to the Lake SWAT guys for the support out there. And I went out there for Lady of the Lake, and I had a fantastic time at their event. And they really put on a good show, and everybody took care of me. We had barbecue, we had food, we had places to stay, and everybody. I had a fantastic time, and prize support. I don't think I've been to another event. I mean, I've been to Lone Wolf, I've been to big events, and I don't think I've seen more prize support than what these guys out there at the Lake SWAT up there in the Midwest, what these guys do. It's a really, really good crowd. The South, great crowd. I love going out. I'm from that area. So I really did appreciate going out there and having a great time with all the guys up there. Chris Kastner is really putting up is really bonding with the community. And I do appreciate his support over here being in the West, getting some support from those guys is fantastic. So I've also got Grip Mats has helped out with some mats too. So I've been working with those guys. I've got a thematic table that I've been building, and Grip Mats is based out of Seattle. His name is Eric Salyers. And so if you ever are looking for some unique mats or mat playing aids, these guys are also doing something a little bit special in that world, and there's a lot of them out there. So Frontline Gaming does things. I've got some support from Frontline, and so there's a lot of stuff that's out there. But if you want to reach out to me and share some of your products, I'd be happy to mention them. Again, this is just a quick shout out. So thank you guys for listening, and be ready for the next one when we'll talk to you guys soon.